Our first speaker, or one of our panelists, Makana Risser. When Makana first moved to Hawaii, she studied Hawaiian massage Lomilomi with a living treasure of Hawaii, Auntie Margaret Machado. Makana became inspired to learn about the history of Lomilomi, but found there were no books on it. She began researching in the Bishop Museum archives and discovered previously unpublished oral histories taken between 1794 and 1934 from elders about traditions of Hawaiian healing. She compiled what she found into a book published by the Bishop Museum in 2005, Na Mo'olelo Lomilomi, Traditions of Hawaiian Massage and Healing, which led to a second book with John Kalani Zach, Hawaiian Massage Lomilomi, Sacred Touch of Aloha, which won a Keep It Hawaii Award from the Hawaii Tourism Authority. Makana was made a life member of Ahahui Lomilomi Hawaii in recognition of her contributions to perpetuate Lomilomi. She's a past member of the board of Hui Mauliola, an organization founded in Hawaiian traditions and spiritual practices, whose members are cultural practitioners committed to promoting and improving the health and well-being of our communities through providing access to quality care and educational opportunities. She is a former member of the Board of Trustees of the Hawaiian Historical Society and was published in its peer-reviewed Hawaiian Journal of History. Founded in 1892, Hawaiian Historical Society is a private nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving historical materials, presenting public lectures, and publishing scholarly research on the history of Hawaii. Please join me in welcoming Makana Risser. Aloha. And our second speaker, our second panelist this evening, Keola Kawaiʻulaʻiliahi Chan was born in the season of Ku under a Kupau moon on September 11, 1975 in Honolulu of Ko'opaiaina, Hawaii. Studying for years under Alva Andrews, Roxanne Bertelman, Malia Craver, George Holokai, Alapa'i Kahu'ena, Ken Kamakea, and other experts, Keola has built his knowledge in Lomilomi, Ho'oponopono, La'au Lapa'au, La'au Kahea, Hula, Oli, and Aikupele. As Keola became recognized within the Hawaiian community as a master kanaka Lomilomi and a skilled teacher, he envisioned and founded Hui Mauliola in 2002 as an avenue to address the health and wellness of Native Hawaiian people. His approach was unique and unforeseen, truly groundbreaking in addressing the self-determination of a marginalized people through the means of traditional healing. In 2007, Keola found himself as one of the central specialists at Life Foundation, where he helped to develop and publish projects, curriculum, programs, workshops, and research relevant to addressing HIV/AIDS within the Native Hawaiian community. And in 2013, Keola procured the position of Kapo Nui of Ahakane Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Keola to this evening's panel.
Lomilomi Kākou, aloha. It is a great honor to be here tonight. Before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge the pule that was presented for you folks. The first pule was a pule pale, a protection, something to set the space, and with the intention of what we're going to be discussing tonight. The next pule was Pule Olalo'ihi. It's one of our older chants, Pule for healing, to impart well-being with the hope of us thriving as we move forward. It is a great honor to be on stage with my good friend. I mahalo my good friend Keone for that beautiful intro, so it alleviates me for introducing all of the great deeds that my good friend here tonight that I have the honor to share the stage with. Since he did such a great job, I'll just take the next step and sharing a little mo'olelo of how I got to meet this person. There was a time, sometime 2002 or 2003. At that time I was engaged in learning the traditional healing practices. And it really became more than just going to class and learning. It was something that really sparked my interest. And I found myself looking for material that was out in our community that spoke more about these healing traditions. And I didn't find much. And so I found myself here at the archives at the Bishop Museum. And I believe at that time, if I remember correctly, but I'm getting kind of old, so kalamai. But if I remember correctly, it was only open like on a Tuesday and a Thursday, as an example. So I would be coming on Tuesdays, and there was only a certain time you could be in the archives. And so I would be going in on Tuesdays, and when you had to go pretty regular, because then you got to meet the staff, and then the staff would actually help you, because you knew their names, they knew you, and they knew the subject matter that you were looking for. Anyway, I was going every Tuesday, and I was asking for certain material, let's say, concerning healing. And so they would pull it, because at that time, like only certain things you could touch. But I wasn't interested in that stuff. I was interested in like what was in the back, right? And so you had to put in a request, and so they would go back and grab it, bring it to you, you'd sit at the table and go through it. Well, this happened several times. After a while, they started asking me, "Oh, are you with Makana?" And I was like, "No, I'm not sure who." And they're like, "Oh, you know why? Because she asked you for the same thing. Are you guys working together?" And I was like, "Don't know who that is, you know?" Because Makana was going like on a Thursday. So we were always missing each other, and it became a regular thing. Like every week, I kept telling them like, "No, I just here because I'm interested in this work." And like, no, Makana asking for the same. You guys working on the same material, and this is before the publication of Namo Olelo Lomilomi. And so we were both in this space seeking out the ike that our kupuna have left to us. And it was really nice to finally put a face at some point we crossed paths, and ever since then we've been best friends. And it's been really, it's a very small group, and I'm really privileged to have her as a friend that I can call and have these kind of discussions about what we're finding, what we saw, and to be here years later in this space that we first met and we first started this path of discovery of our healing traditions here in Hawaii. It is a great honor again to be here with you, Makana. Mahalo for having me.
Mahalo, Keola. I have a different memory of that, but I'm older, so it's probably even more inaccurate. But what I do remember is at one point you said, "You keep going, I'm going to stop now. Carry on." And so that's what I did. I just felt so much encouragement from him and from the others that I met. Malcolm Ne'ea Chun was very helpful, Kekuni Blaisdell, as well as the librarians and archivists here. But I think what we have in common is that we both love history. And I remember a conversation, and it may have been the time when I spoke to his class at KCC one time, an evening class, and then afterwards we went to Zippy's in Kapahulu, and we just talked, you know, and then at 11:30, my husband called and said, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm talking to Keola about history and Lomilomi." But I think it was in that conversation where one of us said, "Wouldn't it be great if we had lived before Cook?" And then the other one says, "Yeah, if we had been here before Cook." And then the other one says, "Yeah, but you know, if we lived then, we would be saying, wouldn't it be great if we were here before Pa'au?" So that's what historians do. So what's interesting is how Keola is living what the documents that I read. I'm a lawyer, so research is easy for me, and I'm all in my head. And he is grounded and in the kino, in the body. So I was really interested in the pule that happened here and the pule that you do, because I read Kamakau says prayer is the foundation of healing, and that comes first. And I wanted to share a prayer that I found, or not a prayer, but a description of prayer that I found in the archives. And then I'd like to hear from you about your thoughts about prayer. Because the first Hawaiian prayer I ever heard was at Auntie Margaret's. And we're on her lanai, first day of class, and she starts praying in Hawaiian. And I was like, oh, I'm hearing, the ancient prayers. What do you think she was praying? The Lord's Prayer. This was kind of disappointing. But, I mean, I'm Christian, but I was thinking that it would be to the ancient gods. But Mary Kawaiʻulaʻiliahi Pukui went to all over the islands to interview kupuna. And in 1930, she went to Hana, Maui, to interview a bunch of kupuna, but she met there a woman named Emma Akana Olmsted. And if any of you folks are related to her, I'd love to talk with you afterwards. But they just hit it off. So for the next 4 years, Kawaiʻulaʻiliahi Pukui went to Hana for 1 week for the next 4 years, 1 week a year. And every time I found something by Emma in the archives, my heart just sang. So I'm going to read what she said about prayer or pule. And some of this you've probably heard before, but some of this you may not have heard before. And I invite you to get comfortable in your chair and breathe and take this in. Emma said, for healing, harmony of spirit, of working of nature is essential. Kupuna worked with prayer, reverence, silence, and working in early morning and evening. When a treatment is to be given, the one who gives the treatment first plucks the herbs to be used. He prays as he picks the herbs. No one should call him back or distract his attention. All should be as still as possible, for they do not want the vibration broken. They knew the laws of vibration. They knew the power of the spoken word. They knew nature. They gathered the vibration of the plentiful. They gathered the vibration of the plentiful. And that's what I feel so much from being with you folks.
Before I answer this, you really set that up well. I just want to help you guys relax into your chair and let you guys know that Makana and I had decided that while we were going to talk about the archives and the words of our kupuna, we didn't want you guys to get the idea that it is not living. It's not a practice that is living. And so tonight I have invited some of my haumana, my good friends, that have donated their time to come and lomi you folks. So they are hidden amongst you. If you find them, you saw them come in, they're here to work on you folks. Share some aloha as a gift from Makana and I and our pa to you folks, but to instill that this is not something that is in a book, that it is a life. To answer this question of pule, like Makana said, or kamakau, there's a step before that though, that is also super important before the pule. And it's been something that in the pa that in the Kapa'olona Puha is a school that I have of traditional healing, that we are focused on reestablishing the total pieces that are important in the healing practice. And so in doing this type of research, what our kupuna left to us was saying, before the pule, is you have to understand who the akua are. And those akua are important in knowing which akua to pray to, so that your prayer can be in alignment with the treatment. I was taught during a time where the technique, the treatment, was the important part. And carrying on, and I think the teachers that I had did a great job. They also still they instilled a great emphasis, though, still yet on the prayer. And like Makana said, there was no school that I went to that they all had that common piece, that pule was a common denominator in all of the schools, in every single practice of healing, whether it's ho'oponopono, la'au, lomi, la'au kahea, pule is the central point of that. But our prayers, because of the colonial influences, we have substituted for a little while with Christian prayers. In the pa that I have, we have bravely gone where our kupuna want us to go. And so we have began rediscovering not just a prayer but ourselves, because when you heal, I believe that the healer must heal themselves first before doing the work. And if the akua and the pule are the two most first and primary pieces to the practice, then we must be brave, like many of our voyagers were brave to sail again, that many of our warriors were brave to reclaim Kaho'olawe. We, as healers, must look at ourselves again and heal that important piece to reclaim the vibrations that Makana was talking about, to humble ourselves, to reconnect with the mana of our aina, and to reclaim the names that are associated with those energies or those akua, however you want to say it. But that relationship must be reestablished once again. And so those pule are really important for us to revisit and really reconnect with, because there are patterns in those prayers. Just like any other religion, there is a certain way that you go about setting up your prayers, right? And that is the same in Hawaiian. But what is not the same is the formatting of those prayers and the acknowledging of when certain akua are called forth for certain healing, right? And so it's been a really great process in this rediscovery of recapturing that mana, that energy, that wisdom that our kupuna had, and that relationship, more importantly, because our practice of healing is not negated or is not void of the relationship to land. Just because we're working with another kanaka, another person, does not mean that our environment is not connected in that. And when you look at that one piece in Hawaiian healing, the prayer is what binds you to your environment. Every word that's in those prayers has a relationship to water, to land, right, to the various kinolau, and that ties the practitioner as simultaneously with the individual to your environment. And that is an important aspect, and which is why I decided to go that route in my pa, to commit to that, is to commit to having our practitioners connect once again to our environment. That it is not just technique in touching and rubbing and putting oil that smell good. The practice was much more magical, and it was much more manaful when you had those relationships in play.
I love what you said about the aina, the land, Because when I first went to Auntie Margaret's, there were other students who thought they knew what they were talking about. And something that they said was Hawaiians invented massage. And it turns out they didn't. I did a little other research on the history of massage, and according to Robert Calvert, who wrote the book, massage is as old as humankind. And it was documented in ancient Egypt and in ancient China. And we know it's throughout the South Pacific. So the Polynesians who came here brought massage with them. But once it came here, just like a canoe plant, it became grounded in the Aina, and it became uniquely Hawaiian. And actually, someday I'd like to write a book on massage in the South Pacific and compare all of them. But the other piece of it is that Lomilomi is just not massage. That was what I thought when I got here. Lomi's massage, and my background was massage. I learned massage from my grandmother, who was from France. And that's why I went to Auntie Margaret's for massage. But then once I got in the Bishop Museum archives, I found that it's just a tiny piece of the healing system, of the healing protocols. And so the pule, the prayer, is the foundation. And then maybe the next foundational piece is the hahano. And so hahano is the word for enema. And according to the kupuna, the basis of Hawaiian medicine is to clean out the system. And it's especially relevant now because over in the Kapai Mahu exhibit, there are 2 items that they label as syringes. But what they are is for giving enemas.
Yeah, so
Oh, and I could have filled a whole book with enema remedies and protocols. I only have 1 chapter, but I could have filled a whole book.
there were fanatics. Our kupuna were fanatics. And some of us in this room, or some of you in this room, still have some stories connected to your grandparents or parents implementing either the enema bag, the red bag, or castor oil, or milk of magnesia, salt water. We all, hopefully, we have moved more recently away from those practices. But it was, our kupuna were fanatics. As you can see in the exhibit, it's one of the things that are showcased there. But it's really a sliver, what you're seeing. And like Makana said, they really took the cleansing aspect to another level. When you go throughout the Pacific, which I have, and interacted with other healers, it's one of those things that our kupuna very, and it's connected to this mo'olelo, and this is one of the things I was really interested in as well. Not just the actual documentation of what our kupuna left to us here at the Bishop Museum, but the mo'olelo, and we have a massive amount of mo'olelo that talk about the healing. Many of you guys may have heard of Pele and Hi'iaka, but not realize that throughout the Hi'iaka mo'olelo, Hi'iaka is the healer throughout the entire, and there is a plethora of mo'olelo explaining her healing journey, right? So that's just a sample. But the cleansing aspect is connected to this individual, Palaha. And that mo'olelo talks about, they're connected to this. The mo'olelo is with Lono Puha, and they're one of the students, kind of like a medical field they were in. And Palaha and his father, the father gets sick. And the father tells him, hey, I'm not going to make it through this, but when I pass away, open me up and figure out what's wrong with me. And so he does. And looks into his father, into his abdomen, and finds out that he's basically constipated. It's all blocked up, and that's what he dies of. And so Pala, he's hanging out one day and observing the environment again, and he watches the river and how parts of the river it gets clogged up in one area and it becomes stagnant and becomes and he realizes that if it continued fresh, everything is healthy and well in this area, but when it becomes stagnant, it's not. And that begins, one of the mo'olelo talks about one of how cleansing becomes so predominant here in Hawaii as a preventative measure. And I think it's important to emphasize that Hawaiian healing spanned from preventative to responsive, like when it was needed. But the emphasis wasn't on the reactive behavior on the back end. It was on the front end. And so this is why what Makana is talking about, the cleansing was so important, was because it was a preventative measure, which I'm going to bounce back to her on a mo'olelo with our ali. Go ahead, Makana.
Oh, well, we're very, Western culture is very, we don't talk about this. We go in a little room, we close the door, and don't talk about it. It's more open in Hawaiian families. I found that my husband is here, Mark Chai, and his family, they'll talk about, oh, I had a purge today. I'm like, oh my gosh. We would never say that, but it's wonderful. But I found in the records that when an ali'i needed to have a cleanse, that people would come from miles around to watch. And it would be a big occasion. And they would come and watch, and they would watch the discharge and describe it in detail. And the kahuna haha, the diagnosticians, as well as kahuna Lomilomi, would look at the discharge and diagnose what the problem was. So it was a very different approach. But I love what you said about preventative, because of course what Hawaiians ate was the perfect diet, right? They're eating fish, vegetables, poi, uala, potato. And so that prevented a lot of disease. But Malo says that when someone became ill, what they would do is forbid certain kinds of shellfish, urchins and other kinds of shellfish. And Mary Kavena Pakui says that she thinks the reason those were forbidden is because they were more likely to cause indigestion. So it was another way of cleansing the system.
I think maybe some of us have heard the term aipono, which is like eating the traditional foods. When what Makana described is called aikupele. And aikupele is when certain foods are regulated, right? Certain foods are taken out of your diet. Western medicine, that is recent that behavior has been adopted. What we're talking about, aikupele, is ancient, right? Is old. Our kupuna were doing that long ago. Yeah, like in the 1950s, you could go into surgery and the night before eat one steak. Like that's the history we come from in modern Western medicine, right? And nothing that's bad about it, because trust me, there's a lot of good in Western medicine. But we also have to recognize what we consider, alternative medicine, which is classified in what we're talking about tonight for Hawaiian healing, is alternative. We were the primary, and it's rooted in application, not theory, but application, right? And so the very best of those practices are what is captured in the words of our kupuna and in the book that Makana put out. And it's important because those practices are still very much relevant today, right? And the foods are more than just foods. Like many people go to church and have sacrament. Sacrament for Hawaiians was every day, because every food that they ate was connected to what we call kinolau. So they were classified in every single food, every plant, that was around us was classified into what was called a kino system. And those kino were associated with a certain akua god. And so eating the god was a daily practice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that practice, I mean, we eat every day, right? We eat several times a day. And to be disconnected from the spiritual aspect of that, I mean, I know in my own practice, I do not stop and savor. I don't go slow as I think I would if I really saw it as a spiritual practice. So it's something that Huli Mauliola, which was referred to in the introduction, was founded by Keola, and I was on the first board. And one of our missions is to give health to the Hawaiian people. And so much of that is about what we do every day. It's not about what we do when we get sick, but what we do to prevent illness.
You guys have any questions? Yeah. You guys have any questions? Because we could go on and on, let me tell you. Like, I'm Mahalo Mark for letting her stay out so late when she was with me. I never did get to tell you thank you. But we can stay out for hours, her and I, and just talk about Hawaiian healing and the various aspects. But if you guys have any need now.
The question was, can you elaborate more on the idea that you shouldn't lomi if you're sick?
Okay, let me try answer this in a short but long answer. Because Hawaiian ma'i is very different than how we think of sickness today. And I want to say that really quickly because they had their own framework of looking at sickness. And this is a very important aspect that I hope somebody starts to really delve into. And when we look at sickness today, we're looking at it as in the physical realm. When sickness has manifested into the physical realm, right? So by Western understanding that if I don't see it on the CAT scan or EKG or X-ray, if it's not there, then take a Tylenol and I see you tomorrow, but we can't help you with it. Hawaiian sickness was looked at when it was a word, when it was in the unseen realm. And so when it was emotionally, physically, and spiritually felt or released, it was identified then. That's when sickness was identified. That's when that piece had to be dealt with immediately. So what we're talking about, when we're talking about cleansing, we're talking about the physical cleansing. Our kupuna were very more conscious of the spiritual cleansing. Right? What we did for you folks earlier tonight was kind of like a spiritual pale, which was ensuring that things were set into its rightful place so sickness or things do not come into this space. Right? That this space is about, we're going to do a particular thing in this space. When we're finished in this space, we're going to release it. You cannot hold on to something for too long, that's why. Right? And so our kupuna were very conscious of sickness when it was not seen. If you dealing with sickness when it's seen, you're too late. If it has manifested into the physical realm, you're too late. And so their classification of sickness was very, like I said, preventative, right? And that's why after cleansing comes ho'oponopono. Like lomi and la'aulapa'au, that's later on. The first two aspects of healing is cleansing, because you got to clean out before you start to add new medicine in, right? You don't want to be compounded with things in you, so you want to clean out, not just internally clean out, but you want to spiritually clean out so that you're ready for the actual healing to take place. And so ho'oponopono is when it is in the word realm, let's say it like that. Like when somebody, we have that olelo, right? Ika olelo no keola, ika olelo no kamake. Words have the power to give life, but it also has the power to take life. So you be mindful of what you say, because that when you put words, or you put mana, or you put energy out, it goes someplace. And it will be taken in by somebody, right? It could be deflected and then hit the next person, which could be your child. So we want to be very mindful with our words and the mana that we all have. So going back to the question, sickness in the Hawaiian way is that we want to make sure that we are in the most healthiest space so that we can fulfill that responsibility of helping the next person. If not, then that opala that is on me can go on top to them, right?
So like even genetic diseases, like if you have arthritis since 36, are we not recommended to Lomilomi?
You want to try that?
No.
I would respond like this. Whatever it is, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, those are Western diagnoses of sickness, which is void of the Hawaiian lens that I just told you about. So you're looking at it when they can see it on the CAT scan, right? They can see it on a microscope. What I'm talking about is that our kupuna and our healing practices, they call it mystical and all these kind of words, magical. It's all of those things, right? Because the emphasis was on the unseen realm. Like I said, the emphasis on identifying sickness wasn't on the physical realm. It was trying to get really skilled at seeing it when it's not in the physical.
Kind of like goes with the Bible, like you cannot utter sickness, yeah? Don't even say it, yeah?
Yeah.
Is there another question? Yes.
I have a question. So like a lot of things you're saying that really resonate with me because I grew up in a really Chinese family, and my mom will give me a list of things I can't eat and cannot eat all the time. But she also talks about like the internal temperature a lot. Is that something that you guys found in your research too? Because she'll be like, you're not feeling good because you're cold inside, or your inside is very hot, and you need to like cool it down, like don't drink this because you don't do temperature. So internal temperature, and I'm curious to know like, if there's relation to that in medicine.
So this is why the akua are super important, right? Because our akua have what you would consider different. There's a different feel, different personality, maybe, I don't know. But temperatures are also associated with our akua, right? And so that's why in our healing practices we have been we never lost it. I just want to say that. I want to really emphasize, there's many people that say we lost these things. I believe like we forgot them. But as native and indigenous people, we know how to access that knowledge. Because it's still there. It's always been there. We just need to access it. But through accessing, you gotta put the work in. You gotta come and research. You gotta do the work. You gotta go and learn from somebody, right? All of these things are important.
Just go look in those boxes. And the answers are there.
They left us. We were the most literate people in the world here in Hawaii. This little tiny islands, we were the most literate people in the world. Our ali'i allowed the masses to learn. You know what they were doing in Europe? Only the nobles could learn and read. The peasants had no clue how to read. The maka'ainana over here were literate. They were learned people, educated people. They wrote prolifically, and they left that knowledge here at the Bishop Museum and many other state archives, many other places, in the Hawaiian newspapers. And it's our responsibility to go and learn again. And what you're asking about is connected to the energies or our akua in the environment, right? Because what is in the environment is in what is in us, which is why our kupuna understood the health of the environment, the health of the land, ensures our health and well-being. The health of our water ensures our well-being. Now, you guys all knowing that now, you're rethinking that with Red Hill now, aren't you? Yeah? But our kupuna understood that, and so did your kupuna. I'm not negating, I'm speaking from my culture, but we have more similarities than differences. It's a society today that wants to separate us, but we have more similarities. If we all go do our homework in our own ethnicities and cultures we come from, you're going to find we have the same understanding. There is a culture that eventually got to massage. Yeah, they know it as massage. But when they go back to their culture, they find out they have more relationship to spirituality in that massage, right? We love in American Western kind of approaches, we like to simplify it, right? Downward dog. No more downward dog in India. They don't know what that is. That's on dog, you know? But we love to simplify the magic, and the magic is where it's at for us as Kanaka. And here in Hawaii, we, like many other cultures, understand that magic and are recapturing and healing as we recapture it.
I just had a thought while you were speaking about my grandmother, because she did massage, and she would massage people on the bus or in the grocery store and the family. She didn't do it professionally. She would just give it. And I think what that means is that she was gathering the vibration of the plentiful, that she was loving everyone that she met and sharing that. And I remember one family party we had, and there must have been 20 people there, and she gave every single person a neck and shoulder rub. And then she made me give her one. But that essence, you know, that it's not about technique, it's not about whether you're doing herbal medicine or you're doing massage or whatever you're doing, it's more about the essence of it.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys all heard that, but she's asking on her Lomi journey, what do I wish more of them? Anyone? Right. What should we be more? Yeah. What you want to try? You got this.
When I was studying with Auntie Margaret, we lived there for a month, and the roof leaked, and there was flooding, and we didn't have a lot of food, and all of my co-students were half my age, and some of them were really annoying. And sometimes I wanted to scream, and sometimes I wanted to quit, and sometimes I wanted them to quit. But Auntie Margaret always laughed, no matter how inane the comment was that somebody made, or they would say the same thing over and over again. She would just laugh. And so finally I said to her, Auntie, how do you do it? How can you be so happy with these people? And she said, just love, just love.
That's a good one. I'm glad you started off with that one, because my response to this is going to be like, that one helps. So in the classes that I'm blessed to teach, only because I had great kumu. I'm a product of great kumu. And my response to that would be, learn to value the healing traditions that you actually come from first. before going out to seek knowledge. And so in my classes, they come to my classes thinking, oh, we're going to go Keola's classes. We're going to learn Lomilomi, like right off the bat. You're going to teach us all the La'aulapa'au, like right off the bat. Like, no, 1 whole year, you don't do nothing like that. Like they only do research on their mo'okuauhau, right? They find out who they come from, where they come from. And then I ask them, like, when you were sick, who healed you in your home? Do you know that remedy? Did you write it down? Did you document okay, you know the genealogy, but who's the healer in your family? Because you know what, there was a time when none of us could go to like Castle Hospital, right? We couldn't go to Walgreens and pick up our la'au, our medicine. We all come from healers, and have we acknowledged that mana, that knowledge that has been passed down in the family first? Do you know what you come with before you come to my class? Right? Because I'm like second, third, fourth, fifth, 20th teacher if you really understand what you come with. And most people don't know that. They don't put the time in. They think like how we think today, that I'm going to go to school and I'm going to learn. And they negate, which is really unfortunate, and they negate the knowledge that comes out of the 30 years you've been around, right? Or when you have young children, they think like, oh, when I went elementary school, that's when I started learning. No. 8 years you spent in your house with your grandma, with your mom, with your uncles and auntie. What did you learn there? That knowledge is more important and supersedes anything that is learned after that. And so when they come to my class, or when they came to Auntie Margaret, we got to have plenty of aloha for them, because that's what we're looking at. I think for me as a kumu, I'm realizing like it's helping them to heal. Like to me, the first year is all about heal the healer. And the only way you can do that is you get grounded in knowing who you are and where you come from. Because I cannot give them that, right? What I can give them is aloha. And that's all we could give them during that time, because you can teach technique, and that's fine. And that's real surface level. Like I said, that's on the physical level, that's the easy part. And that's what is seen. That's what I can squeeze, you can do. Anybody can do that. Anyone around the world was doing that. What makes it magical is the mana that you bring with it. And to bring that, you gotta be rooted. Yeah, you gotta know who you are and where you come from, and the spaces that grew you, right? If you can pull all of that into your session when you're working with somebody, that's wonderful. That's where you're gonna feel magic happen, right? And that's where it takes on more than just massage and makes it lomi.
Before we get to your question, I wanted to say a couple of administrative things, which is you have a handout on your seat, most of you. And the book that we've been talking about, the Bishop Museum book, Nā Mo'olelo Lomilomi, is currently out of print. But they will reprint it if enough people show interest in it. So if you'll go to that Google form that's listed on the handout and put in all your different email addresses, put in fake names.
Stop the recording. Hanaho.
I got that idea from a friend just now. So that's one thing. The other thing is that kind of after I did that book, a practitioner said to me, that Bishop Museum book is good, but there's a lot of words in it. I wish there were more pictures. So that gave me the idea to create the second book, and we do have copies of it there. My friend Paulette is sitting at the table, and it has the greatest hits quotes from the Bishop Museum book, plus pictures of kupuna, both living and past, but contemporary kupuna. So that's available. And then on November 27th, which is the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, Kumu Dane Silva is going to be here, and he's going to be talking about Lomilomi and La'aulapa'au. So you're going to be tired of turkey, you're going to be tired of shopping, so on Sunday you can come here and have another healing experience. But maybe we can finish up with a mo'olelo that inspired us or could inspire others. And since I had that idea, I'll start first, that's okay. So studying with Auntie Margaret, we lived for a month on the lanai of her beach house. And, but the first day that I got there, we were trying to figure out where we should sleep. And her daughter Narita said, you can sleep in the back or sleep here. But she said, you can sleep on the lanai, but only sleep on the lanai if you want to have a life-changing dream. So I'm like, yes, that's where I want to sleep. So I slept there. And nothing for 29 days. And on the last night, I had a dream. So the next day, I graduated, and I came back to Oahu, and I was telling my brother about this dream. He said, oh, you should meet the mother of a friend of mine. So the next day, I met her, Tutu Elizabeth, and her husband, Norman. And she immediately Hana'd me, or adopted me into her family. And a few weeks later, she gave me the name Makana, which means gift, because she said I was a gift to her family. But a few minutes after I met Tutu, she said, are you married? I said, no. She said, I have a son you should meet. And that's how I met Mark. So talk about the mana, talk about aloha, talk about all of it is all right there.
How am I supposed to beat that? Wow. Okay, I have nothing near that. I'll share this story since if we have students or there was a place right down the road here. It was a place. Sorry, that Queen Liliuokalani Children's Center used to reside in on Halona Street, and in that space used to have a kupuna that used to teach ho'oponopono, and her name was Malia Craver. And I was invited to her class. She's like, Keola, you should come to my class. I signed up for my class. And of course, the personality that I have, I just sign up all my friends to come with me. So we take the class, and we're sitting in this class, and it's, I don't know, like 20, 30 people are in the class. And it was, I don't know how many weeks, like 8 weeks or 12-week class. But every class we would come, she would just ask like real simple questions that we all had to go around the circle and answer. And as we're going around, everyone's like bawling and these questions, she's asking these questions, and as each person's pondering on the question, they like start talking about their family and like losing it. And everyone, like, so the whole time we're like, bro, can we hurry this up? Like, people are in the class, like, you can hear them, like, when are we gonna learn ho'oponopono? Like, geez, like, we gotta listen to her drama, we gotta listen to his drama, And so we take breaks, water breaks, lunch break, and everyone's all grumbling on the side, like, oh, is Auntie gonna teach us this stuff or what? Like, come to like the last week of class, like the very last class. And she's so kupuna, and like, you don't want to challenge her. You don't want to like, hey, Auntie, like, where's the system? You know what I mean? Like, no one asks that, right? They have that much respect and aloha. But they're frustrated. You can tell. And so she's like, oh, yeah, so you guys want to learn ho'oponopono. Yeah. So this is how, and she just starts rattling it off. Cause you do this, pule vehe, and then you go into the mihi, and then you go, and then just reading it down, and people are mad taking notes, And then class is done, and then we go outside, take picture, and then bye, And so people are just like, okay, I guess I know ho'oponopono now, But Auntie Malia was like, okay, Keola, you come back for my next class. And this happened for like 7 classes. And I was crazy enough to keep coming back, right? It was only on like the 3rd class I realized, like, oh my gosh, she's making them actually do the work, right? Like, do the practice. Not like, here's the system and here's the first step, second step, what in their mind they wanted. but not realizing they were actually going through the actual system of the process. And I kept going back, like 7, I think I was the only one, like I'm in all the pictures, like 7 pictures. Because she would put the pictures behind her in her office. So I was like, I'm in all the pictures, you know? But it wasn't because I was failing, because I was doing the work, but it gave me a different perspective. And I think that's important for all of us that are on a path of learning, whatever that path is. Doesn't have to be in Hawaiian healing, but you gotta be humble, you gotta be open, and you kind of come in with this idea of what you like. You gonna get what you gonna get. And some of the stuff, half of the stuff I teach my classes like super fast. Like once we start getting into the work, they're like, oh, this is so much we're learning all of a sudden. Like, yeah, year 1 is Pau. Like now it's time to build a healer in the home. Like that's you. So get to work, you know? And they're like, oh, I can't learn all of this. And I learned that you're gonna learn what you're supposed to learn. You can grasp what you're supposed to grasp. Not everything is meant for you. Right? Sometimes we like take so much notes and you close the book and you have no clue what you learned in that class. But you know what you are left with is the most important part of that learning. So it took me the 7 classes to really grasp the totality of what that lady was really trying to teach. And I'm glad I went to 7 classes. So that's my only story I got for you guys. Good luck with that.